I'd rather be with f***ing Bat Mite than you.
Who's Bat Mite?
The 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman. I'd rather be with him.
Is he a real guy?
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my full DC Peacemaker episode 1 through episode 3 video. They just released the first 3 episodes, so there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and Justice League connections. It is part of the DCEU, so I'll explain what's going on. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will do videos for all the episodes, just depending on how everybody feels about the series. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the first couple of episodes yet. We'll just start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about the big Easter eggs, Justice League connections, and big name drops as we go through the episodes.
Supervillain, that's a misconception. I'm a superhero.
Batman is a superhero.
I'll start with episode 1, then I'll do episode 2, then I'll do episode 3 at the end of the video. But they're doing the same naming convention that they do for the Mandalorian series, the Star Wars Book of Boba Fett episodes. So it's episode 1, chapter 1, A Whole New World, and the world is a reference to him whirling around at the end of the episode with that woman who winds up being the butterfly. But if it wasn't clear, this series is taking place inside the DCEU in present day, about 5 months or so after the events of the Suicide Squad movie, that post-credit scene where Peacemaker is shown alive in the hospital recovering. There are several mentions of different Justice League characters throughout the series, like they do a lot of Batman, Superman, even Aquaman references in this first episode. I'll point those out too. But a lot of the early part of the first episode is meant to reintroduce you to the Peacemaker character and kind of remind you who he is, where he comes from, and what's going on. James Gunn did say the Peacemaker series is supposed to set up a future big DC project like crossover the same way the Marvel Disney Plus series do with the big Marvel movies. But for the Peacemaker episodes, James Gunn filmed all of them himself, like he was the director or the writer for all the episodes, and he said that there are post-credit scenes for every episode. So if you saw the post-credit scenes for the first 3 episodes, it's going to be like that for every single episode. The actual opening scene starts with him waking up in the hospital where we saw him in that post-credit scene, the Mount Rouge Hospital in Evergreen, the town where he lives, and where most of this series is taking place. If you're not a big comic book reader, Evergreen is from the Green Lantern comics. Within the DCEU here, it's located in Charlton County, and that's a reference to the Charlton comics where Peacemaker originally came from. But the idea that this is taking place in a Green Lantern city and the butterflies are part of this larger alien invasion setup, I think that the series is going to slowly tease the big Green Lantern HBO series that we're going to be watching next year. The door to the lair of that senator who's the butterfly is glowing green, kind of like Green Lantern. There are veins of green running through the rocks in his underground lair. But you guys can let me know in the comments, what other big upcoming DC project do you think they're going to use this to tease? They discharge him and introduce Rizwan Manji's Jamil character, who's one of the janitors. There's a bunch of jokes with his character, but he is meant to be a larger character in the later episodes. You kind of get the vibe from his character. Pretty much everybody on the show, all these main characters, are meant to be kind of shady. Like even his janitor character is kind of shady because he says he's not trustworthy and he went to MIT, but he's working as a janitor because he just doesn't want the responsibility. They make their first big Justice League reference when he starts making fun of Peacemaker for being so dumb, like you're not a hero, Aquaman's a hero, and they make this big joke about Aquaman doing it with fish. James Gunn said that Peacemaker is kind of new to the internet, so to speak, like he just doesn't know how the internet works, so he believes that everything he reads on the internet is completely true all over social media. They even make a Pepe the Frog meme reference when he says the person who told him about Aquaman having sex with fish was named Pepe the Frog. There's a bunch of references to the Suicide Squad movie, like he has a postcard from Corto Maltese that he apparently picked up while they were on their mission there. He still has Corto Maltese currency, which he tries to use to pay for his cab ride. The Mr. Murn that the nurse texts is the team leader for their Black Ops team inside Argus or Task Force X. They're like a side quest group inside Amanda Waller's larger Argus organization. He's not from the comics. There are a couple of the characters on the team here that they created for the show, but a lot of the other big characters in the series are comic book characters. And this whole weird, funny intro they have with the 80s song is just meant to be like a fantasy that he's having. Like you're meant to watch this series as if you're seeing inside Peacemaker's head the way he thinks of himself. They also use this intro to literally introduce you to the other major characters. Like this is DCEU Vigilante. This is Leota. We find out that she's actually secretly Amanda Waller's daughter. She's meant to be like the rookie on the team because, as she says, she was trained in military ops, and Amanda Waller has been trying to bring her into Argus, but she's kind of been resisting that. Like in episode 3, she gets kind of gun-shy and can't kill that guard. This guy, like I said, is Murn. He's the team leader. James Gunn also just cast him as a secret character in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's rumored that he's going to be the MCU High Evolutionary, but I guess we'll find out when they release the first trailer for that. You all remember Amelia Harcourt from the Suicide Squad movie, John Economos. This is a new character, Kia. She's playing Leota's wife. And you all know Robert Patrick. He's playing Peacemaker's father. They actually reveal later that he is DCEU White Dragon. He's basically like this white supremacist supervillain from the comics, but that answers a lot of questions about why he has that secret lair with the portal and all those weapons, just like miles and miles of weapons in some secret location. This is Sophie Song and her partner Larry Fitzgibbon. They're detectives who just keep running into Peacemaker and the Task Force X team because of all the collateral damage that they cause. There's also a special Easter egg for the Fitzgibbon character too. He's not from DC Comics, but James Gunn has always had a character in all of his movies called Larry Fitzgibbon, so it's more of a James Gunn Easter egg, not so much a DC Easter egg. Behind them is just one of the other local police officers, played by Christopher Heyerdahl, who you might recognize from all the Stargate TV shows. This is Jamil's janitor character, who you just met. He becomes a bigger character later in the series. This old man here is his father's neighbor. He drops a whole bunch of Justice League references and Batman references, and right at the end, Judo Master jumps out. He's kind of like a mid-level villain. We'll see what they wind up doing with him in the later episodes. He is a comic book character. Like I said, he debuted in the original Charlton comics where Peacemaker came from before DC bought Charlton and they all became DC characters. And this is Eagly, his pet bald eagle. Yes, that is correct. He has a pet bald eagle, but he uses him more as like a sidekick. Like he's his best friend / sidekick. Like Batman and Robin, or if you want to make a Batman animal sidekick reference, Batman and Duke from the comics. If you didn't watch the credits, D. Bradley Baker is playing the voice of Eagly. He does all the eagle sounds. A lot of you might remember him as the voice of Momo and Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's also done a ton of Star Wars animated characters. The symbol here on the episode title is the Dove of Peace. That's the symbol that he has on all of his gear. It becomes a big plot device in episode 3 too, like he feels like he can't kill someone unless the Dove of Peace is on the gun. But that's really just part of a big panic attack that he's having. Then as they start introducing you to the other characters, Leota makes a bunch of James Bond references to Octopussy because she was expecting the secret Black Ops mission in the series to be something a little bit sexier, a little bit grander. Things will get super huge and crazy later on, like with each new episode, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, things get continually bigger and bigger and bigger. She also makes a Sharknado reference, and then when the cab driver won't take Peacemaker's Coastal Maltese currency, he has to give him the helmet that he wore on the last Suicide Squad mission. But that's just to set up the twist with all the other helmets that his father has with the special functions and all the special weapons he keeps in that secret base. They reveal Peacemaker's house, obviously going with the theme here, his mobile home painted to look like the American flag. The reason they give him this funny entrance jumping in the side because he can't find the key is also just to give you a quick tour of his bedroom, just to give you a vibe for his character. But as you can see, most of his furniture, the design, all of his records, his music is all from the 80s. That's why most of the music for the series, the songs that you hear in the episodes, are all either hair metal or classic rock bands. Then they sort of set up the Vigilante character like he has a billion missed calls and messages from Vigilante. He is the Adrian Chase version of the character. They did a version of him on Arrow, but it was just like a vastly different version from the comics. This version is also a little bit different from the comics too. They're just playing him super goofy and super crazy, just like Peacemaker. They make a big Godzilla Toho Monsterverse reference when Peacemaker thinks that they're fighting Mothra, like, oh, we're fighting a giant moth because the mission is codenamed Butterfly. In Project Starfish, Starro was a giant starfish. The payoff, though, is that yes, they are kind of fighting space butterflies, but it's a small insectoid race with advanced technology. My early theory right now, because there's all this talk of alphas and this hive structure and this honey drinking, like they drink this weird honey fluid in episode 3, that they might be connected to Queen Bee and Hive, or a version of those characters from the DC comics. Queen Bee is a big Justice League and Green Lantern villain. There's a bunch of different versions of the characters. Then she eventually takes over a version of Hive. The one I'm talking about is the alien version of the character. But to make a Marvel reference, we kind of have a version of Secret Invasion going on where you have them basically taking over human hosts. Then they introduce his father, played by Robert Patrick, and his muscle car. It's a 1970s Mercury Comet. James Gunn himself called it a really shifty car, like one of the worst muscle cars of all time. Even though you don't get a good look at the license plate, you do see it on the posters here. It's meant to say Peacemaker, but the way it's written, it sounds kind of like Pissmaker, which is exactly the kind of thing that Peacemaker would do, punking himself. The number 986 on his house might be a reference to the mid-80s when DC bought Charlton Comics and the Peacemaker character became a DC character, but his first DC series didn't start till 1988. His neighbor makes a big Batman reference, and obviously because this is inside the DCEU, he's talking about Ben Affleck's Batman. And probably the other biggest Batman Easter egg that surprised me was the idea that Bat Mite actually exists in the DCEU.
Who's Batman?
The 2-foot tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman. I'd rather be with him.
Is he a real guy?
Yeah.
If you haven't read a lot of the old Batman comics, Bat Mite is basically like a fifth-dimensional creature just like Mr. Mrs. Pitlick, and it basically does the same thing to Batman that Mr. Mrs. Pitlick does to Superman, just messes with him. And John Economos is very clear. He's like, no, it's real. It actually happened. So Ben Affleck's Batman at some point in his history dealt with this interdimensional creature. When they go in the house, though, there's this whole Fox News type show going on about how liberals in America are secretly aliens plotting to take down the country. Obviously, that's meant to foreshadow the big reveal about Project Butterfly, that there are actual aliens who are masquerading as humans like Skrulls in the MCU. Love the way they play all these eagle-y scenes here, too. This is mostly done with a lot of special effects, but they treat the eagle like it really is his sidekick, like it literally hugs him.
Dad, grab my phone. I don't want to move. Dad?
When Peacemaker is bonding with his father over Bloodsport's terrible father in the story about how he locked him in the crate with the starving rats for 24 hours and his father just can't get enough of it, they're trying to show you how much of a psychopath his father is, but also because we find out that he's this classic DC comic book villain, I think they're trying to slowly set him up as a bigger villain during the course of the series. Maybe not the main villain, but I think they're just trying to set up this larger confrontation that Peacemaker will have with his father. Then they reveal the special portal disguises the door in the garage and teleports them to this massive weapons storage depot that his father has with all this bleeding edge tech, which they do not explain yet. I love the fact that they don't explain how his father has all this. There are just miles and miles full of weapons here. It kind of looks like his father even has some legit nuclear warheads, or at least some giant rocket here in the center. So to make another James Bond reference, his father is kind of like this psychopathic Q, but like I said, he himself used to be a vigilante. When his father says the helmets were from before he went into prison, the idea is that his father had been training to be this hardcore weapon, but Peacemaker doesn't want to be evil. But the funny thing here is that even though his father is legit crazy, he does give him some solid advice, like which helmet should I pick here, which special function, and he gives him the Sonic helmet, which does serve him well at the end of the episode. They reveal the first person that he's supposed to kill, the first butterfly, is this shady US senator, who is the person that they kill in episode 3, so it takes a little while to get there, but they do eventually get there. Then after Peacemaker strikes out with Amelia Harcourt, he winds up inadvertently going home with one of the butterflies, although they do reveal the butterfly was also kind of watching him while he was watching Amelia Harcourt, like he was stalking her, but he himself was also kind of being stalked on the side. So when they transition to the caterpillar in front of her apartment, that's meant to pay off the Mothra Godzilla Project Butterfly joke. He winds up hooking up with one of the butterflies. Then the whole thing with the Amanda Waller cameo scene is obviously they just want to remind you that she's a big part of this series, even though she's not in every single episode, and reveal that she is Leota's mother and what's really going on with Project Butterfly. There's another Batman reference on Peacemaker's diary, and the reason why she calls it a forgery is probably because they stole Peacemaker's diary and made a fake copy, and they're trying to swap back in the fake copy and just hide it in his trailer somewhere where he won't find it. My early theory is that they probably stole his real diary, and it might have something to do with his father's secret weapons and all the tech, and his secret past as the DCEU White Dragon villain. Like on the side, Amanda Waller might be investigating his father. Love the giant fight scene that Peacemaker has in his tighty-whities fighting the butterfly, who's also in her underwear, and using the helmet that his father suggested to him. Like, oh, it turns out that Sonic helmet worked pretty good. Like, as crazy as his father is, it does sound like he knows his stuff. It does sound like he's actually pretty smart, but the post-credit scene does make you question that just a little bit. The actual post-credit scene is really just for the scabies helmet. Like, it's a longer version of the new helmet scene of him looking at all the special functions, and legit, one of the helmets is just designed to give him scabies. Not anyone else, just him. They're either going to pay that off in a future episode with another joke, or it's just meant to make you think that his father could 50-50 be crazy or a genius. Probably a little bit of both. The title of episode 2, chapter 2, is Best Friends for Never, which is a reference to the Vigilante character. They fully introduce the Vigilante character in his costume, and they start working on the actual butterfly missions in a bigger way. Detective Song makes a Superman reference, saying that she hopes this isn't some capes thing. She also references Vigilante, implying that he's been going around killing people in the area for a long time. The other big joke here too is how he runs back to the apartment to steal all of his gear and takes all that time to find his socks, everything, and put it back on, and steal all of her 80s music and junk, and just happens upon a piece of their alien technology, so Sticky Fingers did pay off. And they use this to set up the joke for the end of the episode where the wife does wind up sleeping with Peacemaker and Vigilante in a big threesome, bonding over their mutual love of hair metal bands. Amelia Harcourt makes a Jason Bourne reference. John Economos is the person who's responsible for Peacemaker's father getting thrown in prison, although with a little bit of help from Leota and the couple who they bribed to lie about Peacemaker. He also references Harley Quinn and Weasel. Remember, the Suicide Squad movie post-credit scene revealed that Weasel is still alive and running around the jungles of Corto Maltese unless they went and got him later. And I already explained the Bat Mite scene, like him basically saying there is a real version of Bat Mite in the DCEU. If you look around the office space that they move into here to run their missions, it's basically an old video rental store. And if you look around the room, like zoom in and enhance on all the shelves here, on all the walls, there's a whole bunch of funny references to fake movies. The whole shootout that he has with Vigilante to celebrate is just meant to be a callback to his competition that he had with Bloodsport during the Suicide Squad movie to see who could pull off the best trick shots. This one is just meant to be a little more celebratory, like he's having a little bit more fun with it. And afterwards, like I said, they pay off the joke with Amber wanting to screw him with the big threesome, and they pay off the reveal with the alien tech, like it's just a tiny alien ship, like the aliens themselves are really tiny and just living inside regular humans like parasites, controlling them. That's why in episode 3, Peacemaker makes the homunculus reference. The episode 2 post-credit scene just winds up being a funnier, longer version of the couple looking at all the different photos, identifying Peacemaker's father as the actual person at the crime scene. The title of episode 3 is Better Goff Dead, which is a reference to the senator that Peacemaker was originally supposed to kill, and it's just taken them this long to get to the mission. Peacemaker references DCEU Dollman. He's kind of like a discount version of DC's Atom, or Ant-Man if you want to think of a Marvel reference. Dollman only has shrinking powers though. And like I said earlier, Peacemaker references that he has an older brother who will probably meet in a future episode or in a flashback if he's dead in present day. And apparently, pro tip, be careful about WhatsApp on your phones if you send each other nudes. Maybe you should just lay off sending each other pictures like that anyway. They said of the Judo Master character, he's exactly what he sounds like. He's just a regular martial arts expert. He doesn't have any special superpowers. He comes from the original old school Charlton comics where Peacemaker came from, so that's why they're using him on the show. Shout out for Berenstain Bears and the Mandela Effect. There's a big joke about the Mandela Effect because they argue, is it Berenstain Bears? Was it Berenstein Bears? It really was Berenstain Bears. Leota is correct. Like she shows in the picture later and he's like, oh, that has to be Photoshopped. That can't be real.
The children's books, it's Berenstain Bears, not Berenstein Bears.
They also make a Cobra Kai Karate Kid reference. Netflix just released Cobra Kai, and they actually just brought back Terry Silver from Karate Kid 3 as the new big bad of the series. Then the whole thing with not being able to take out the family is just meant to be him having this crisis of conscience, crisis of faith, however you want to think about it. That's the whole deal with the Dove of Peace. Like he freaks out because there's not a Dove of Peace on the gun. Oh, I can't shoot him if there's not a Dove of Peace symbol on it. Like I said earlier, I think the reason they're drinking the weird honey fluid is probably a tip-off that they're connected to Queen Bee and Hive from the Justice League and the Green Lantern comics. The joke about the Flaming Hot Cheetos is probably just a product integration, like paid placement advertisement that they turned into a joke. Or maybe James Gunn just really likes his Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They do finally give John Economos a win after spending the last 3 episodes making fun of him nonstop, taking down Judo Master, using the van 1, and then 2, finishing him off with a crowbar. They do wind up taking out the senator after he winds up cutting off about half of Vigilante's toe and shocking his balls to hell. And they reveal that there are theoretically thousands of these butterfly alien creatures all over the world. Not so much Russia for some reason, not sure why they're avoiding Russia so much. Parts of northern Africa, most of Australia, northern Canada. Really what's going on here is they're just focused around the biggest population centers. In the episode 3 post-credit scene is just meant to be a longer version of the Vigilante scene where he shows up to help them, revealing that his whole family is dead. Like I said, they'll probably give us a big Vigilante flashback in a future episode to explain what happened to his family. But everyone post all your theories about Project Butterfly in the comments. Which alien group do you think the bugs belong to? And who is the real main villain? But my Peacemaker episode 4 video will post next week after my Star Wars Book of Boba Fett episode video, so we'll see how the Peacemaker videos do. If everyone is digging the show and the video does well, I will continue doing episode videos for it every week. Everyone click here for my full Book of Boba Fett episode 3 video, and click here for my Eternals deleted scene for Kit Harington's Black Knight character. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.